Hello, everyone. Welcome to Satoshi Chats episode 7. Today, we'll be discussing the 20K mark and how it's been important throughout history. Today is December 14th. The price of Bitcoin is $19,100. And actually, today it was up to 19,500, but it actually took a sharp decline in the late evening, which is kind of interesting. The price of Ethereum is $582.
Interesting. Yeah, it's been an interesting last couple of days with the Bitcoin price. It kind of dipped down for a little bit after a lot of people thought it was going to hit 20K.
Right, but what do you think it means to hit 20K?
Well, see, if you think back to 2017 when 20K was first established as like the level, um, I think back then it was really just arbitrary. Like, I think it was really an emotional point for traders and really just like it was double what 10K was at the major point before that. And I think being double that was just, uh, that was the emotional point at that time period
Right.
because a lot of it was like, retail traders and like just a lot of like non-institutional money buying
FOMO,
Bitcoin, Yeah, FOMO and stuff. So
FOMO.
so as soon as it hit 20K, it kind of collapsed. Whereas now we've had this strong like continued rally and like this continued push
Right.
towards like
It's,
20K,
we've,
like you know.
yeah, Bitcoin has had a lot more plumbing done in the last 3 years to make it worth more than 20K.
Right, and now it's just like finally catching up and uh
Yeah, and now it's the new normal.
right, like
And
think about how long we've been above like 17K, like before just a few months ago we were sitting below 10K for a long time.
yeah, and really now the sky's the limit. Once we break the once we break 22 whatever. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like at that point we could go anywhere. It's quite ridiculous.
Yeah. Um, so do you think, Jack, that in in particular the end of this year, these coming weeks, do you think that we have the potential to break 20K and not really so much based off of like a technical analysis type of thing, but just a general feeling for the market right now and how
Um,
we've recently been pushing?
Honestly, I do believe that we will close the year above 20K, just because December is just historically a pretty good month for cryptocurrencies, especially after the halving. So, I mean, yes, we've had a huge rally, but we've started to slow down a bit, and maybe it's in preparation for a next spike. So who knows? I mean,
Yeah, that
we could
Christmas
we
FOMO.
yeah, we could end the year at 100,000. Who knows? But we could also end the year at 14.
Right. So no one really knows. That's the funny thing is that I constantly see like these updates on cryptocurrency and Bitcoin Twitter at like different price levels, and
Yeah,
they are always like kind of semi-adjusted targets, as from the last post, and it's always like just a reaction to the price, as if like they've somehow guided the price in some way. But it's like no, you're just like
yeah.
creating
It's
a
like
new chart with the new price with a new arrow.
yeah,
Like
it's like
we're
you
all
just
just
like
guessing
moved your
here.
trend line. Yeah, you moved your trend line like a centimeter, and then it
Yeah.
just changed. It changed the guessed price from 288,000 to 400,000.
Yeah, I think there's certainly some real like technical analysis traders out there. Uh,
Yeah,
but uh, I just find it funny when there's like the same
it's
the
pretty.
same chart
Yeah,
with different drawings on it.
yeah, it's quite comical. Yes,
Quite comical. So
yeah.
yeah, so 20K. Let's say 20K is
I want to
past.
see. I want to see it on my phone. I want to see the 20. Like I don't want to see the 19 anymore. I want to see the 20.
I know. I'm excited for digits beyond the ones. Like
Yeah.
it's such a significant moment. And so beyond 20K, what do you think is the big next goal? Obviously, at least 50K.
I feel like after 20K, 100K is just gonna come sooner than we think. It's
Yeah.
yeah, I mean 50K will be a mark for sure, but I feel like it'll be 50K and then we wake up the next day and it's 70, you
Right.
know?
Like, what's the difference between 45,000 and 65,000? You know? Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
In your
Like
brain, not that much.
yeah.
like like to me, like if we think about other things like a car, right? If I'm spending $50,000 on a car and there's a really nicer car, like a way nicer car for 60,000, I'd probably buy the $60,000 car just because it's such a marginal difference, you know. And I feel
Yeah,
like what's
right.
going to happen with Bitcoin is people are going to be like, whoa, it's above 20K, and then as soon as it's 40K, they're going to be like, whoa, it's above 40, you know, like
Yeah, at
just
that
buy
point it's
in.
just numbers. Yeah.
Right.
Like once it's past, like I feel like it's essential to be past that point of like, oh my God, one is a lot of money. And like it's kind of
Yeah.
there right now, but like at the same time it's not.
Yeah, I think there's certainly like a transition that needs to happen from
100,000 is definitely a golden
right,
number.
right. Do you think like there needs to be a transition like to like thinking about Bitcoin less as like I'm going to purchase a Bitcoin and more like I need to purchase some Satoshis or I need to purchase
Yeah, it will
some
definitely. I mean, at one point the number will get so ridiculously high that like um people will just not really value it in dollars. They'll just kind of value it in Bitcoin, you know?
You know what's interesting is in reality it's already there. Like, how many investors do we know in this day and age? I mean, it's it's only the upper middle classes would purchase
Yeah,
a stock price for 20K, right? Imagine if there was a stock price out there for 20K, you know. I'm
yeah,
sure there's a few. And you think that the poor people are out here buying that? No. You know? So already I
yeah.
think it's hit that point where it's like, wow, like buying a whole Bitcoin, you know, definitely only
Like
for
yeah,
the wealthiest people.
yeah. Like no one goes on. Yeah, no one hears about Bitcoin at a family dinner and then goes out and buys a whole one.
You're right, right. And that's this, we've already reached that point, and yet people are still like, oh, Bitcoin's like not real or it's going to go back down. It's like, how can you argue with the evidence, you know?
What I don't understand is the argument of expensiveness. Like because it's just a number of value. So I mean, you could you could look at anything and say that it's too expensive, but it's relative on the supply. So like, I mean, a stock could be valued at $5, but there's 20 billion of them. So
Right. Yeah. And
it's
it's,
interesting when people say it's too expensive because they could really buy 10 satoshis.
yeah. And like, it's funny because you're a Bitcoiner and you think that the price is going up, you think that right now it's ridiculously cheap. And, you know, at least for me, and I'm sure for everyone involved in Bitcoin, you just wish you had more fiat money to put into it. I mean,
Right.
uh, there's not much more to it. So I think it's like, I don't know, it's only going to get more desirable from here, you know?
Yeah. People are gonna start understanding its value, and my dad called me and asked me an interesting question. He was like, so what happens when all 21 million are mined? Like
Mm-hmm.
what? And it was actually quite hilarious because he said, what happens if everyone just wants to hold their Bitcoin? And I mean, I don't know if the man has taken an economics class before, but it's quite simple supply and demand. I mean, if everyone's holding that, the price will go up because the people who don't have any will want to pay more money to get some.
Yeah.
And eventually, when the price goes up, there's going to be someone that's going to be willing to sell it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Once the
It's
price hits a
literally
certain
like,
point, someone will sell. I mean, imagine if everyone holds until it hits a million. I'd probably start selling
yeah,
at a million, right? So
right, yeah.
so
Or not even selling, but just trading.
right, yeah. So there's always going to be a supply and demand factor, and
There's always going to be someone that's willing to sell it. Like, there always will be.
yeah, and that's why I mean it's funny that like there could be um I've heard before like, oh, what if someone who held all the Bitcoin or a lot of Bitcoin sold it all at once? And what that in the long run, you still can't change the supply of Bitcoin, so it would just flatten out over time, you know? It's not like
Yeah,
the supply would just, oh, well, we have all the Bitcoin, we're just going to hold on to it forever. It's like, no, there would be that much Bitcoin, and then eventually people would buy it because it would be cheap enough, you know? Like,
yeah.
it literally is just an equilibrium that balances out over time. There's
It's perfect because it's just such a free market. It's ridiculous.
right. It's
It's
like a little, bungee cord that just bounces back and forth. If there's a lot of
yeah,
people trying to buy it, there will be a rise in price, and then there will be people selling it because of the rise in price, and then the price will go back down. So a lot of people will want to buy it, and so on and so forth
it's quite
until
simple.
and over time the price just goes up and up and up because people do continue to want to buy it. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
what a fascinating thing to be a part of, you know?
right. Like, I feel like it's such a simple thing to understand. Like, not even Bitcoin itself, because Bitcoin is quite complex the further you go
The
into it. But
technology, yeah.
just the supply and demand fundamentals. Like,
Hmm.
I remember something that really surprised me. Something about supply and demand is just like for cities that are experiencing like tsunamis or whatever, um, and a convenience store is selling water for $30. Um, I remember seeing something on Twitter like, "Oh, how dare this convenience store sell me water for $30? Like, what if these poor people need water? Like, they're suffering out here." But it's like, dude, like if you sold water for that cheap, like people would just buy all of them,
Hmm.
and like the fact that that water is priced high like that, it will make other people go and bring more water to that city. So literally just like a free market fixes everything.
Yeah, yeah. Um, a lot of people, you know, talk about like you said, like price fixing and stuff like that. Like if you have price ceilings and floors and stuff, and it's like if you've seen what that does, it just creates major problems in the economic space. And if we were
Right, it
just
creates huge problems.
And if we were just to, so what we're doing right now is literally putting a price floor and a price ceiling on our money by by fixing the interest rate and all that and printing the supply of it. And if we were to just for a moment, uh, realize the effect that it would have to have a money in which the market would choose the value of rather than an arbitrary like bank or people, you know, uh, we would be able to immediately increase the effectiveness of all of our trades. You know, we wouldn't have to deal with this. It's literally a politic. You know, it's literally a politics thing. Because all of a sudden you've attached a human aspect to something that could have been solved by the nature of the market. You know.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
It's just so it baffles me to think that people like yeah economics.
Yeah, right. It's like it it's crazy because people think that um, they could like they see an issue and they they think that they could fix it by doing something about it, but really the best thing to do is absolutely nothing
Yeah, like
and just let the natural flow of stuff just take course.
yeah, like there really is no like there so what I think of when I hear that is like water and electricity, right? Like path of least resistance, right? I feel like all forms of energy and all forms of life, including money, want to naturally follow the path of least resistance, right? Like
Right.
I've always thought that rich people and entrepreneurs are not lazy. They just learn how to work better, you know? And
Right.
sometimes that comes off as lazy, and to me that literally is just like a human replication of following the path of least resistance, right? So
Right.
we as Bitcoin holders see the path of least resistance to wealth, which is Bitcoin. And Bitcoin
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
and Bitcoin is the path of least resistance because it's the market's choice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so just like
Uh,
water kind of flows wherever there is nothing in its way, the market's going to
right.
flow wherever there's nothing in its way, you know? And
Yeah,
you can never
water
like
is
fully block the market, you know?
yeah, because it's crazy that the all the water in the world is just kind of like going where it's told, or not where it's told, but just like
Where it's
it's
told by
constant.
gravity, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy.
Um, and so I think that's like a it translates itself in many ways and many facets of life. And this is Bitcoin's just one of those ways that it's choosing is like the path of least resistance to prosperity for humanity is going to be Bitcoin, and the path of least resistance for people who are against Bitcoin is going to inevitably be to give up and buy Bitcoin, you know?
Yeah,
Because the other way is definitely going to be more resistant.
yeah. It's time will tell.
Indeed, indeed. So
Time will definitely tell.
yeah,
Will that wrap it up for today's ep?
I think so. Got anything more you wanted to discuss?
Just a quick reminder that inflation is a second tax.
Yeah, it's true, folks. You are being your wealth is being stolen right now. If you have any asset which is not instantaneously tradable to Bitcoin, you're losing out on some major money. And
Right.
truly, if the asset itself is in Bitcoin, it's just devaluing. Um, everyone assets who are going up in value right now, i.e., the stock market and real estate, just know that a lot of that is coming from quantitative easing and injections of cash and programs that the government have been doing for coronavirus. And that's not necessarily natural growth. And if you don't back up things by capital, bad things happen in the long run. But
Right.
that's just you know we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Anyways, folks, thanks for listening. Comment, subscribe, like, share it with your friends.
Peace.